Hi, this is AG News, and we're here today with extra important news and events.
That's right. Thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll go right into what we have for you guys today.
In the past year, how many times have you guys found yourselves talking about Donald Trump in your daily lives, whether it's been in a positive or negative way? Trump has sure had an effect on the United States.
On August 25th of 2015, Jorge Ramos went into one of Donald Trump's news conference, trying to get his questions answered about the candidate's controversial immigration proposals. Although Trump refused to answer his questions, Ramos insisted. Maybe it was because of the questions Jorge Ramos was asking that put Trump in a state of mind where he didn't know what to say, or maybe that Trump just didn't want anything to do with Ramos.
After Trump told him to sit down many times, telling him that he hadn't been called on yet, and even told him to go back to Univision, Ramos refused to sit down, and security personnel escorted him out of the room immediately, something that Ramos said he never expected.
Shortly after getting kicked, Trump called Ramos back into the room.
This is one of the many popular encounters that Donald Trump has caused.
Wow, Eileen, that sure sounds like it was intense.
Moving on to another subject for today's news, 100 people were killed and hundreds were wounded, with 100 in critical condition in Paris. It all started on the evening of Friday the 13th of November.
There were 7 coordinated terror attacks in total, including 3 explosions. The first of the 3 occurred outside the State of France Stadium, where at the time France was playing Germany.
A man wearing a suicide belt was prohibited from entering the stadium after a routine security check detected the explosives. The man backed away from the security guards and blew off the explosives.
Sounds like the stadiums in Paris were having a bad day, because the game attended by President Francis Haldane at another stadium was put through a skirt as well. After a second man blew off his suicide vest, they made sure the president was rushed to safety.
A third suicide bomber blew off at a fast food outlet near the stadium. The attackers all wore identical explosive vests.
Apart from the ones mentioned, there were several other attacks in concert hall, restaurants, and bars. It seemed as if the attackers were targeting more towards the center of the town. Of course, places where there was more people.
In honor of this devastating time, the light of the Eiffel Tower was turned off, as well as close to the public. While Paris turned their lights off, the world turned theirs on, in remembrance of their lives that were taken.
We sure send prayers to Paris and the people that were in that sad event.
That leads us into our next subject. The United States is thinking twice into letting Syrian refugees into our country.
Since the Syrian civil war began, 320,000 people have been killed, including nearly 12,000 children, and about 1.5 million people have been wounded or permanently disabled.
Within Syria, healthcare, education systems, and other infrastructure has been destroyed. The economy is definitely shattered.
Syrian children are the nation's hope for a better future, have lost loved ones, suffered injuries, missed years of schooling, and witnessed violence and brutality.
That's just too bad. On another note, 13.5 million people in Syria need humanitarian assistance. Most of these Syrian refugees remain in the Middle East, in Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt, and more than 10% of the refugees have traveled to Europe.
Children affected by this Syrian conflict are at risk of becoming ill, malnourished, and abused. Millions have been forced to quit school.
So what's so urgent about the situation? Well, winter is coming, so refugees in settlements have fewer resources than ever before. They need adequate food, warm clothes, shoes, blankets, heaters, and fuel.
In Lebanon alone, said the agency estimate that 195,000 Syrian refugees will need assistance to stay warm and dry over the winter.
The crisis in Syria affects more than 12 million people, more than those affected by Hurricane Katrina, the Haiti earthquake, and the Indian Ocean tsunami combined.
How do you feel about this situation and about them coming into our country? Give us your opinion at www.agnews.com.
Doesn't it scare you that just walking out of a building can put your life at risk?
It's a crazy world out there.
2015 has sure been a crazy year with all the shootings that have happened in just 1 year.
Within the year, there's been 284 mass shootings. 2 of the latest ones were the Planned Parenthood shooting in Colorado Springs and the shooting in San Bernardino, California.
3 were killed and 9 were wounded in the Colorado Springs shooting. The shooter was named Robert Louis Steer, who claimed he was a warrior to the babies.
Steer seemed to have a mental illness. All the things that he said just didn't seem to connect. It brought us to that conclusion.
This wasn't the first time Robert Louis Steer was charged for a crime. Deere is accused of killing a police officer and 2 civilians in a shooting rampage on November 27th. So nothing stopped him from going into this Planned Parenthood center and affecting many people's lives.
That brings us into the next shooting. On December 2nd, 14 people were killed and 22 were wounded by a redless couple. Innocent people who only planned on going to work and living their lives that day lost their lives instead.
The married couple opened fire at a holiday party at the Inland Regional Center. It seemed that Farrick and Malik began plotting a terror attack before they were even engaged, and before Malik moved to the U.S. last year.
Both attackers were killed in a gun battle with the police, and it was believed that in the Redlands home there was a massive amount of weapons and explosives.
Investigators say that this was no spontaneous scene. It seemed to have been well planned out.
So many lives gone, it's so sad.
That's right, we should never take life for granted.
Very true. Well, we hope that you guys took something from all this information we've talked about today. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Brenda Mosqueda.
And I'm Eileen Bonilla. This is AG News, and we'll be back with you guys tomorrow with more intriguing current events. Have a good rest of your day.